geeking out today. This is really, really fun. Episode 84 of the HGA Fundraising free webinar series. We're so thankful. Trevor Nelson, Jason Lello. Our special guest today is Lauren Batterby from Live Event Staffing. And as you can tell, we're already carrying on quite a bit and have been for the last 10 minutes about some really, really important topics about, or just ideas and things that you need to implement at your events. You know, is your event staff helping you? Is it hurting you? What can we do to twist the dial on certain things to make our event really stand out? Because it needs to these days. We have to be creative, we have to be clever, and we have to put the absolute best foot forward that we can at our events. So as mentioned, super, super excited to have Lauren here. This is going to be a good one, we can already tell. And we're so thankful for everyone that's here, everyone that's going to be listening to the recording later. Fantastic. Can't thank you enough. We're as always going to have a lot of interaction. Any questions, comments, ideas, things that have worked great, things that have worked poorly, and how we can help, because Lauren's obviously an expert in her space. We're going to let her explain exactly what she does, and we have some great questions for her. But if you keep the questions coming in the comments, and we'll monitor those in the chat feature, Q&A at the bottom, and stay to the very end, because we're going to do a drawing per usual for an auction item that you can use at your next event, making sure that you put your best foot forward there. And just so thankful to have you, Lauren. So really, really appreciate it. And Jay, thanks for being here, brother.
So, hey, Lauren, I want to jump out here and just first of all, how in the world did you get into live event staffing? And tell me, that's the name of your company, but it's also what you do. Yeah. So how did that happen?
All right. So live event staffing came about post-pandemic. But my background, if you don't mind me going even
please do.
Even further back, so it just shows me a little bit of background, so I might know what I'm talking about in some areas, right? I worked for Give Smart UK, that doesn't exist anymore. So that was where I started. I was recruited. I wanted to work in events. I'd never even heard of a silent auction, okay, at this point in time. Taken on, trained up, and loved what we were doing. It was taking off. UK was a little bit further behind the times as far as silent auction and gala fundraisers that we were having, but it was taking off, definitely. There's also a difference in nonprofit between the two. There's different amounts of funding you can get in the US, so there's just a lot more. There's a lot more happening and a lot more giving happening in the US. Again, politically, tax purposes, we'll leave that one there. But it was taking off. Give Smart UK got bought out. I can name drop a few things here, it's fine, by Givergy UK, who were also Givergy US as well. I didn't end up moving over to Givergy, but all of the team I was working with did. So I'm still very friendly with the guys over there now. And I was brought over to Give Smart US Atlanta office. And I head up operations there, which was basically training staff, making sure they were fully equipped for their events, equipment, logistics, training, and everything that goes in with having your on-site staff. So I wasn't client facing, I was everything internal operations. So there's the background of how I've been in mobile bidding. So it's probably about 10 years now.
Yeah, and so just to give everybody some context, when I was visiting with Lauren to kind of tee this up earlier this week, she told me that, and I hope you don't mind me sharing, but I'm going to, that they've done over 400 events this year, and they'll be in another 400 events providing staffing. So, it's not just to say you got to use this person, but because that's not what we wanted, and when I talked to her, I was like, we know that we have a lot of capable nonprofits out there that have a great volunteer team or they have a great staff, but there's a lot of things when you're in 400 events, you've got to be doing something, right and exceptional, because first impression is everything. And when somebody walks in the door, not only from, first and last, they're also the last people that you see when you check out before you leave, if you're having to do some kind of checkout, if there's a physical part to it. But that also leads up to when somebody gets that save the date for next year. And all those things build into it. We talk about things like energy. We just did a podcast about it, having that really good energy, in the room and things, because, if it's a snooze fest the whole time, everybody's going to go to sleep and go, yeah, that was kind of boring. it still needs to be an entertainment. You still have a product you're selling. So, Lauren and I, what I'd like you to do is just, why don't you go through kind of some of the things that you guys, the boxes that you want to check for your team, for your events that you're going to provide during that, or things that you've seen. Maybe give a train wreck, maybe give a success, anything that you want to share in that would be helpful to our listeners out here and people who are watching.
Yeah, no problem at all. I think the first thing to highlight is, because that is the whole title of this webinar, event staff. Okay, who are we referring to here? Are we talking about internal staff that work for a nonprofit? Are we talking about those wonderful people that volunteer their time for free to come and assist on that one particular night? Or are we talking about the tech experts, I suppose, if you want to refer to them as that can come in and actually make sure any software is running smoothly for the night? So it's a very broad term, event staff. And I think this is probably one of the points me and my sales team struggle with throughout, in being able to explain what we do and the difference between us, and then being able to justify us as a staffing agency compared to the next staffing agency. We're specialized in what we do, and that is a word I constantly highlight. So whether you want to use the term expert, technician, specialized staff, we are all of the above, and there really is a huge difference between the people like ourselves that are specialized and doing these things all the time. We have, like you said, we've done 400 events, and that was only up until June. We're in our next half of the year now, and we're probably going to max out at about 800 across the 2 fundraising seasons that we have. These staff are constantly seeing these events. They're going a couple of times a week to be able to offer the service that we are able to offer. That's not the same of that kind lady or gentleman that wants to assist with you on the night. So I like to promote that it's almost not fair to put that kind person in a position where you've thrown an iPad or a laptop in front of them and said, there you go, this is how you check in these people, this is how you're swiping a credit card. There's a lot of money passing through these people, and it's so crucial, which I'm sure we can get into later as well, if we need to get these details of these donors correct, because the outcome is always money and the amount raised. So what I always try to say, and I'm being long-winded now, I apologize.
Good.
No, that's what we're here for.
No, we love it. Thank you. We'll save our voices.
However, the difference between a volunteer is they are there for you and your organization, and they have the heart of your organization. Yes, a lot of my team love what they do, but we are there for the heart of the technology. Okay, so to put someone in a place where they're best utilized. And it might not be that person's skill set to be in front of an iPad. They may not even know how to turn it on at this point. They should be, they possibly even donated some items to the silent auction, because these are the type of people that they are. They're giving. They're giving their time. They've probably given a donation as well, even if it be a basket raffle that they've put together, or where they're donating their yacht. It doesn't matter. They're the ones that should be there promoting your organization by being the face of it, as well as people arrive. Are they greeting guests? Do they want to go and promote their item to boost some bids on it? This is where they should be. And that's always what I try to tell people. This is where the value in our specialized staff comes from, because it's not event staff. There's a huge difference between a volunteer and one of the staff that you would get from our books. There's also been an awful lot of training and experience that goes into the people that we are giving to our events. So there is the value in what you're getting from life event staffing.
And I want to just give a clarification to what life event staffing does, because I spent a lot of time talking to Lauren about this, and having been around this for a long time, seeing a lot of events and been there, this isn't where there's one person that works for her and then 4 or 5 temps that are brought in. This is, everyone is works at life event staffing, have been trained by her, know this. This is what they do. And so you're getting really professionals when you do that. I wanted to make that clarification that it's not just somebody that they brought in and stuck in a seat, because I've seen that happen. I've got a couple of examples, and I've given this, I use two analogies in this, and I use an analogy when I'm talking about like professional auctioneers versus volunteers and things like that. And the analogy I'm going to share is, you talk to somebody and they go, "Hey, we're going to get my Uncle Jerry come up there. He's on our board. He's a real funny guy. He's hilarious and everything." And that's true. Jerry is really funny. He's very delightful in front of 5 people, but all of a sudden you step him in front of 500 people. It's a different game. Mm-hmm. The same thing happens with event staff. Oh, we're going to get Mary. She's so good with technology. She knows computers. She's really good. Well, let me give you an example of what happened with Mary. This is not her name, but at an event, using a software company, good company, their product is really good, and look over at the check-in table, and there's no one there.
That's bad.
One of the ladies who was really good, who had been trained, had done all this stuff. When the swiper wasn't working, she literally became physically ill because she became so distraught, physically ill. Instead of just, entering the stuff in manually, something like that, there's other ways to have done it. She got physically ill and left. Well, her sister was helping her at check-in. She went to go take care of her sister who's sick in the bathroom, and there's nobody there. These people are delightful, but to your point, Lauren, they were not equipped to deal with that. It just wasn't their profession. And so I think, you talk about putting somebody in an unfair situation. It really is. It can be that way. Now, I'm not saying that's all. And sometimes that's what we have. Somebody here's got an event next week and they're like, "I've just got volunteers. I've just got some staff members." Now, this isn't their first rodeo. So for those people, because, they're already committed, they're down the road, they're not going to be able to put something together like with you this time. What advice could you give to them that would help them to get their staff ready?
Well, from what I'm seeing from all the platforms that we're working with at the moment, and like I said, our expertise lie across all of these platforms, just not one particular one, is that they are all offering their own guidance towards the technology. I think this again stems a bit more from the pandemic. They had to set people up for success to be able to run their events alone because there weren't staff available, weren't allowed to be sending people out, right? So there's a lot of training that the platforms themselves offer, tech-wise, training videos, there are different things that they can use. Highly advise that people are watching this. It's very simple how to do a check-in or allocate one person to be that expert. And then we always run a training on the night. And the best way to do it for people, you can watch videos until they come out of your ears, but on the night, we do a live run through, even down to what you should say. "Good evening, welcome to this evening's event. Would you like to take part in this evening's fundraising features? Can we take these details?" Really making sure they know how to enter it into the system, why we need their details, why we're swiping a credit card, because that's always a big one at the door, right? "Hello, welcome to our event. Can we take your credit card?" We don't want to be that forceful about it. So there's a way of there's a mannerism that you can take on board when you're doing this as well. So again, just prepping them, briefing them, having a run through, doing a live run through, check yourself into this event, then you know how to do it when somebody approaches you. So use the platform training and then maybe appoint one person who can be a lead. And what I do always try to enforce as a best practice, if it's our team, because sometimes we do have this where it's not my full team going out and it's one event manager and we will lead the volunteers. Awesome. So we offer that level of service as well. But what I do always recommend is that don't have my event manager doing a physical check-in, because if you've got 5 volunteers sat to the side here and one of them has a question, that event manager can't leave the guest that they're dealing with at that moment in time. But yet this volunteer can't go any further until they have the answer. And you've got someone standing in front of them, they're starting to panic. So it's almost not the best turn of phrase, but a floater to be there. The event manager then can go to
Mhm.
each volunteer and make sure those check-in lines are moving smoothly throughout. So have that one appointed person to stand back and be able to assist throughout that check-in.
Awesome.
I have a question for you when you're seeing that. Maybe there's also some things, because I think that's so good, is John Maxwell. He's a big motivational speaker. He used to be a pastor of a place called Saddleback Church out in California, giant mega church and all this stuff. And I listened to him speak one time, and he was talking about having people serve where their gifts were. You may have somebody that's a volunteer, and their gift may not be the check-in, check-out table. It may be somewhere else, but maybe that's not right where they're gifted. And so, and what I mean by that is you get somebody who's, and I'm kind of going to let Lauren take off on this. I hope she's got some input. They need to have that personality. I mean, you need to get that personality where they've got a smile on their face and exactly to follow the script, to say, hi, how are you? Welcome. Because this is the first people that they talk to. Whenever you walk in the door, you may have some people welcoming, come in there. You don't want the person up there that's the friendly curmudgeon, that's your volunteer, that's up there going, doesn't have a smile on their face and kind of sad sacking or griping and complaining.
That's that first impression that we're talking about. Yeah.
This is something, and to technology going, well, I can't figure this thing out, because I'm gonna let you talk on that, because I got a follow-up question here in a second.
It's absolutely that. And going back to poor Mary, who was so upset by this situation, by being put as the face of, she's probably not going to want to come back next year. Okay, but her value, her gift could have been, just welcoming guests and being that happy face at the door, directing them to the correct check-in desk, or where's code check. These people are paid usually a lot of money to be there before we've even asked them for their credit card to donate throughout the rest of the evening. They want to know what's going on. Where am I going? Okay, I'm inside, I'm comfortable, I'm out of the heat or the cold, whatever it might be. There's my coat check. I've been looked after from the word go. Maybe Mary should have been there. And then someone else that could actually stay a little calmer under pressure. But it's huge. As well, we also don't want to stand in lines for 30 minutes before we can get to the bar, basically, right? So we want to make sure it's a fluid entrance the whole time. So, hi, people don't mind standing in line for, I don't know, I would love to know what the actual average before people night out is. Let's push it. Let's say 10 minutes, right? You've been standing there. Again, make sure your check-in desk location doesn't have people queuing out of the door. So they're standing in the heat or the cold or the wet. Make sure they're inside. Make sure they're directed to know where they're going. Make sure they've been dealt with from the word go. And then by the time they get to the desk, the check-in was nice and swift. Usually it's that text message that's been sent to their phone. They're off. The silent auction and the bar are that way. And then they're in. They hardly even noticed a thing. And, credit card, fine, just swipe that, nice and easy. Off we go.
Yep.
So just keeping it swift the whole time. Check-in is so crucial to the rest of the guests' experience throughout the night.
It's the first act of the show. Jason and I were talking about it being a performance, or almost you call it the run of show for a reason. We were talking about this yesterday, and that's the first act, and you have to nail it. You have
to, you do.
I think
it has to be hit out of the park.
Talking about the gifts and preparation. So, and this goes back to virtual, we were doing these virtual events and everything, and people would say, well, and I would prep everybody. I would go through, if I happen to be there, just because I figured this out, I was like, look, something is going to go wrong tonight. I don't know what it is. We've done everything we possibly could to ensure that everything's going to be. However, but if it does, don't panic. We'll get it done. We'll take care of it. It'll be fixed. And more than likely, your donors won't even know. But when that comes up, just be calm, cool, and keep it, everything going. And that's something that I think is real interesting, because I've seen that where somebody, nobody knew anything was wrong until somebody, flipped out, or like I said, got up and ran to the bathroom because they were sick. Nobody else knew anything was wrong. And how do you deal with that as far as having, when you're prepping staff and volunteer, people, because obviously you can't man every station with the service you provide, to do that, to think about that?
So the way with our staff, well, it comes with experience, doesn't it? Sometimes you can't teach it. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to be put in a position where something's gone wrong and we learn from our mistakes. Isn't that a life thing? Oh, life as well over here. We put our staff through a lot of shadowing. To my dad, the investment I have in the training towards my team is we never ever send out someone completely new, or else I wouldn't be selling specialized staff, would I? So we speak to our organizations and we're very upfront and say we're actually going to send free staff to your event and they are going to shadow. They're not really going to get involved. They can do if they feel comfortable and it's needed at the time. So they're not really another pair of hands, but we want them to watch. We want them to see what kind of questions the guests are asking. We want them to see how the event manager handles it. So they can see that these problems can be solved quite quickly and calmly just by standing back and observing. Same when it comes to how a live auction runs, how an appeal runs and how a checkout runs. So our investment and our training for the staff is to have them go and see it for themselves. As far as setting up volunteers, again, it's very difficult, but all you can do is pretty much just as you did then, Jason, make them feel calm that don't you worry, we've got your back. If you do, we are here to answer your questions. So don't panic in front of that guest. You don't need to be that deer in headlights if something goes wrong, because we've got that event manager floating across the back to say, oh, just pop your hand in the air. Here we are. We will solve everything. And again, another thing with the value of staff, reassurance, confidence in the technology and that we can assist with whatever it might be.
You brought something up and it just reminded me, there was an organization that I know, and I showed up to do the auction and got there and saw the executive director of development and some of the team from another organization that were there volunteering at this. And they weren't, it was really interesting because I said, oh, wow, hey, how are you guys doing? They said, well, we wanted to put some time in. We offered to come volunteer because we wanted to see how they did their check-in, check-out. We knew this was a successful event, and they weren't actually doing it, but they were runners behind. They kind of were, the gopher running, doing, things like that. And to learn to see the systems, that way they could see in live what was going on. So much like your follow along. So maybe, there's an organization that that has an event coming up prior to yours that you could go watch that has done well, and to see that. So that's just you brought that up about the shadowing, and I remembered that time. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. If an organization, kind of not off the beaten path too much, Lauren, but if an organization doesn't have your team coming, for instance, they're very short staffed, they have a few volunteers, a few paid staff, you do recommend to them they have like one lead that is qualified, that kind of is like the jack of all trades, so to speak. That's the go-to. If something, if what hits the fan, we're going to go to that person, and then they're going to delegate and have the difficult conversation if they have to with the volunteers and things like that. You are recommending that, it sounds like, as well.
I would 100%. You put someone to lead your check-in, because even if it's not technology related, because I always say this even as aside from our event manager as well, because again, we know tech, but your guests. So when your key sponsor walks in and they never sent you their guest list, because they don't, but they've got a table of 10. And we need to work out how to get those table of 10 into the system. But we just can't go letting anybody in on a ticketed event. Oh, sure, yeah. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, we'll pop you in the system. We need someone there to approve that as well. And it can't be the person that's then also dealing with the catering, that then also has to go and deal with the entertainment. It needs to be the person that's got that skill set again.
I was just going to say, and you brought that up, if you're an executive director or a director of development, it cannot be you. No. You cannot be the software expert, the check-in, check-out expert, that person. It cannot be you. If you're an executive director, CEO of an organization, Your job is to be out there shaking hands, hugging people, welcoming, and talking to your donors and building relationships. If you're the director of development, you're probably going to be more making sure the run of the show, dealing with those pieces and, behind the scenes, kind of making that stuff happen. If you're stuck up there telling everybody how to run the software because you're the only one that you got to do it, you need to just
That
say
was a misappropriation.
it's exactly. So please do not do that. You cannot be the expert. You've got to have somebody else be the expert.
Yeah, we're really trying to remind everyone of this because we're right in the middle of event season, of course, as we mentioned. That's why the timing of this conversation is so crucial, and we hope everyone's getting a ton out of it. Is you have to be deliberate, and sometimes Jason and I have said this week in and week out. It's okay to have a difficult conversation with someone about what they should or should not be doing, because at the end of the day, it's going to hurt the production. It's going to hurt the show. It's going to hurt the performance. It's going to hurt the event. And we can't Jason was just at an event this last weekend where, he said the person grabbed the microphone that was a staff member and they made the show about them. That's the wrong approach. I went to an event that was in a amazing setting. And I felt when we walked out of our shuttle, we parked and then shuttled down to the event. It was all beautiful outdoors. It looked like Italy with olive trees. It was very amazing. We felt like we were inconveniencing the people at the check-in when we got out of the shuttle. And it was and then my wife, who has been with me from the beginning of the company and everything, and she said, well, I just don't think they're really interested in raising money. And that's what she said after we did a little walkthrough. We went I don't want to tell any crazy nightmares or anything like that, but it was a really eye-opening because we're students of this. That's such good timing for this conversation. We're students of this because these things are going on. We're getting feedback from our clients. We're going to events ourselves. We want to help in our community. That's why Jason's giving away his time as well. We went to go bid on something in the silent auction room, and the silent auction was closing in 10 minutes. And the people that were taking our bids with the iPads were eating. They weren't even there. We couldn't make a bid. So we're like, wow, this is crazy. We have to tell people just to be very, very intentional and make sure those very simple mistakes, not that they don't happen, they can't happen. That can't happen. That's just the fact of it.
Well, I want to hear Lauren's take on this, but I think that, when we say having a difficult conversation is to say, hey, Trevor, I appreciate you volunteering for this. Now, I want you to understand, because you volunteered, you've made a commitment, and I need to know that I can count on you, that you're going to watch the videos, you're going to fulfill the training, you're going to be there on the night, just doing this time, because that's kind of what this is. And you can't just decide to do whatever, whenever, because I've seen in other occasions where you've had some volunteer like that, and the next thing I know, this person's bringing a date, and I look over there and they're having a cocktail.
Yeah, it's wild. Personalities. That's what it boils down to. Personalities.
So what do you have? What do you think about that specific thing, Lauren?
Gosh, it is so difficult to build that trust with your internal team, to know that you can rely on them.
Yeah.
My take on it is use my staff.
Yeah.
Rely on them.
Okay. If anybody has any questions for Lauren, and please just, shout it out there, because there may be something, and it may not be with the check-in, maybe check out. It may be something with the silent auction. It may be something that what you've seen that works really well. I have a question that I was going to ask Lauren what she thinks about this, because she's been in 400 events and she has staff and they're reporting back and seeing all this stuff. One of the things that I think is a good idea, kind of to what Trevor was saying, most people know how to use the phone. Most people can figure the software out. The software now is so intuitive. It's not like it was 10 or even 5 years ago. It's really good. And it got even better through COVID.
Yeah.
But I think, and something I see a lot is, with the technology, because then everybody's on that fence. Well, I've got some people that aren't technology savvy, so they just default and want to go back to paper or something like that, which I'm like, oh, don't do that.
Mm-mm.
But what you can do is have somebody there with the stuff set up, so that way they can put the person's number in, even look it up by their name, and say, absolutely, I see Trevor Nelson. I've got you here. You want that Pendleton blanket? Absolutely. How much would you like to bid? You're in.
Yeah.
And making it really easy for that to happen. So when you're checking your boxes and you're looking, my experience says that I'd like to see what you've seen or what you guys are seeing out there.
So do you know what? You mentioned train wrecks earlier, right? So I never mentioned anything negative necessarily happened at an event, and it's not usually related to the silent auction. We don't have the issues now where people don't know how to bid. If we do, we can generally see those people. It's the person standing in front of that one particular item, staring at their phone with a dazed and confused look on their face. So we have staff, we approach them. Can I show you how to do this? And yes, you have the ability throughout most software platforms to do it for them. Or let me show you how. Show them once, they've got it for the rest of the night and they're away. So as long as you've got those people in that silent auction area, they can just hit on those for you, or at least our staff are aware the guests are aware who our staff are, so they can be approached and ask questions. Usually that's the easy part. The hard part is the appeal. This is what goes wrong more than anything. And this, because you can talk people out of pen to paper now, majority of the time, because people now seem to trust silent auction technology. Why they do not yet trust being able to place a donation online through their phone, whether it's not trust, that's the wrong word. I don't know, but more often than not, I am still seeing cards on tables. Fill out the donor slip. Then we'll come and collect them.
Yeah.
You know how many of those fly off the table when the food arrives? They're under the table. Okay. And someone may have even put their credit card details on that slip and it's floating off around the room somewhere. No one was able to collect it on time. There's a fury at the end of the night of volunteers running around trying to find all these slips. But yet there's one that was $5,000 that's just gone missing. Or we couldn't read the person's handwriting in order to be able to do that. These are the things that causes the most problems. My staff, as part of our service, is to then take these and enter it into the system manually, which is crazy. You're just creating an extra task for us to do, which we do offer because you just can't avoid it at the moment, is we take all that data and enter it into the system. They have paid a few $1,000s for this technology that automatically does it for them. All you need to do is tell people to pull out their phones and place that donation, and you can have this thermometer that's live that then goes up. It can be a fantastic experience, but yet organizations are still shying away from doing this. I've had pieces of paper handed to me. This is my one train wreck. I was there. I was the event manager. And I'm going back at least 7 years now that this happened, and I'm still having the same reports back from the staff that this is happening. They had decided they weren't using paddles because they wanted to keep it more personal, and they knew every guest in the room. I'd say there's about 200 people, and they said that they're going to do the denomination levels. Who in the room will give me my 20,000, and then so on and so forth, moving down, right the way down to £50. This is in the UK. That's a lot of denomination levels in between. And people were either raising their hand at their table, staying in their spot, no paddle number, no bidder number at this point. There was a volunteer at every table that had a table plan with a circle that was a table, your standard table plan, and then the little dots around it, which are the 10 seats. And they were going to write the amount next to each person. Okay, bear in mind that when you turn that piece of paper, everyone sat in a different seat depending on how you're looking at it. So I was handed about 20 sheets of paper with teeny tiny arrows and writing that just said, Dave, Kim, $100. I'm like, I can't enter this data. And there was hundreds of thousands on these sheets of paper. I tried my absolute best to make sure it was input into the system, and we'll never know exactly how much was lost. I mean,
we're thankful that's behind us.
Honestly, the stress that creates, and then it makes it look disorganized to the guests as well. And again, they still had the capability of the platform to be able to do it if they just followed my direction in how to run your paddle raise. And please don't do it that way. But no, they knew best at the time, and unfortunately it did not work out. But we did have one the other night where we fed back to them and said, we know how much you paid for your technology, but yet you are still, your accounts team is still scrambling and going through those hundreds of slips, 3 days later, to be able to then input it into the system. You've also not charged them. Really, the whole point of checking out on the night, or a lot of these softwares now, we swiped your credit card, you've made your donation, we've already charged your card, thank you very much. We've emailed you your receipt, and off you go. Job done. What if 3 days later they change their mind about that 20,000 that they put in? It needs to be done on the night. So that appeal, there's so many ways it can go wrong, but there's just so many simple ways to make it right. And this is the knowledge and expertise again that the staff have. They will speak to you in advance and say, okay, we also always ask to be introduced to the MC or auctioneer, because we need to make sure that what you are going to do, because we've definitely been taken by surprise on the night as well by a few auctioneers that like to go rogue sometimes. We need to
know. No, Lauren, that never happens. Never.
We do. We always make friends with the auctioneer. It's top of our list. You go, you introduce yourself to the auctioneer, usually so we can work together, and the auctioneer knows that, okay, I can shout out the numbers and they've got it. They know what they're doing. Great. So it's faith in us, having faith in the auctioneer as well. So we don't miss a bid. We don't miss a dollar, and getting it all into the system. So if people do follow the advice that we try to give, these appeal train wrecks can really be very easily avoided, and everything can be, again, extremely streamlined, because every software does that we work with. Every software is offering that. It's an industry standard feature. A mobile bidding platform.
That segues really nicely, Lauren. Appreciate you sharing that. It's super crucial that everyone's taking notes on that and making sure that they're informing everyone and their guests if they're using technology. Obviously, we certainly hope that they are. It segues nicely into a question that we had about technology. Someone asked, I think it was Rob and Jay, asked in particular if Lauren uses a particular is familiar with a particular service. Lauren's familiar with all services. She's agnostic as to which ones. She doesn't recommendations. She works with all of them. Obviously, her background is in tech at the event side of things. Obviously, Lauren, we're assuming that you're very bullish on organizations definitely utilizing mobile bidding software, obviously, and how crucial it is nowadays, and how conditioned donors and consumers are to using the phone in a pleasant way is what I mean, conditioned in a good way. But to answer your question, Robin, Lauren's familiar with our platform. She's familiar with Give, Smart, One Cause. What we have maybe another handful of others, not a ton.
All of them.
So she's worked with all of them,
and that's where I want to just make a statement about that. We say all the time. I mean, we think we've got a great software platform, but when we say this is not. It is a financial misstep by an organization not to use technology at this point in game. 30, I believe, and we've got some statistics to back it up, and Lauren may have some as well. It's about 30%. Organizations that use technology will raise 30% more, if all things being even, just by doing that. If they go from manual to, they'll raise 30% more, because just the silent auction, just the ability to bid, just the ease of it, instead of having to go around the table and around the table and around the table and around the table to watch, they can watch the programming, sit at their table, having their cocktail, talking to their friend, and punching the button. And you literally see somebody, oh, hold on, I got to check this. And they just keep on bidding. It's amazing how many more bids you get.
Oh, yeah, because it's too easy. And again, alcohol is a lovely fuel to bid higher and faster. You get that notification to your phone. It's addictive. Oh, no, I've been outbid. You almost don't even look at the next amount, because usually increments, they're not too wide, right? So you don't have to really think about it too much. You're like, okay, I can do another 100. Okay, I can do another 50. Whatever that might be. You're right. The platforms are fantastic because they almost make it too easy.
I think it's awesome. We have so much that's come out.
I would like to speaking of that, let's just say for those, maybe not here, maybe they're listening, hearing this later on. Can you give an example of somebody that was very reluctant maybe to use software that you were around, that they really were afraid of it, but then they did it and was an exception because maybe they said, I've heard this, well, we've really got an older crowd. Well, we're really not so sure that our folks are ready for this. And
yeah,
that was the perception, but the reality was quite a bit different.
What I found with all the above excuses, and usually it's the investment, it's the financial investment within the technology that usually the smaller organizations, is it worth it? Like you said, you can raise 30% more. Well, they're not going to believe that until they see it.
Yeah.
Really. So you need these like case studies. So usually these come off the back of organization referrals that people will actually listen to what we're saying. So what I found most of the time, if you are able to convince them that technology will help you raise more, the people just go with the flow. The guests just go with the flow of it because they're attending other events. So just because your particular event hasn't done it before, and oh no, we know how to do it, we've been doing it this way for the last 20 years, we raise this much, everyone knows what they're doing, like guest wise, when they come, well, again, they don't just attend your event. You will probably find that they're very tech savvy when they arrive. And they're like, oh yeah, great. We saw this one just last week at my daughter's school or whatever it might be. Everyone's already doing it. You can't hide from it anymore. You can't use flip phone as an excuse either. Oh, we only have flip phone. Can't do that.
It sounds like you've seen it all, Lauren. You've seen it all. You've heard all these excuses. No, you're not wrong. And we talk about this often, not from a competitive standpoint necessarily, but I guess that's the easiest way to explain it. I mean, it's getting so some organizations are pushing the puck, so to speak, and making these steps, these giant steps, and seeing great success, that if someone attends that particular event where they're doing these things and being very creative and they're using the advent of technology and they're crushing records, they go to their kid's school and they're not doing that. Well, they're going, okay, wah, wah, wah. It's just like, this is unfortunate. And the bar is being raised. The market, donors, our consumers, is telling us and waving hands and the lights are on that this is how it should be done. So we're imploring folks to listen. That's the idea, and to take note of this and to implement these strategies in your own event. At the end of the day, you're leaving money on the table if you're not, and we're just trying to make that as clear as possible to viewers.
Well, it's just like underestimating the ability of your donors to give. You say, well, what's the most money you've raised? $10,000. What's the most money you've ever asked for? $10,000. Yeah. Why haven't you asked for any more? Well, we've never gotten any more. But you never got any more because you never asked. So how can you possibly assume, it's kind of like, okay, well, just don't assume that just because you don't understand technology real well and your own fear that everybody else is going to be that way. Because what we see, it's like it's not even a second thought. Now, I will tell you that I did go to an event recently, and we got there, and fortunately they did have somebody there to take the bids because they didn't even have a phone at all. Now, that's one I haven't seen. I haven't really seen that in a long, long time where somebody did not have a cell phone or handheld pocket computer. They didn't have one. So in that case it was, but we're talking about less than like 3 people out of 300. So not 1%. So that is not even going to move the needle typically. And if they really want to give something, they want something, we're going to be equal opportunity receivers and figure out how to get it. But, I really believe that there's a tremendous amount of opportunity that you have to unlock in your event. I think using a service like Lauren's is a great investment, because if it just will give you the peace of mind as a director of development, as a CEO, executive director, to know that I have somebody, I do not have to think about it. It's off my plate. All I need to do is shake hands, kiss cheeks, hug necks, and thank people and do that. That's all I have to do, and just be there. You know, how much more is your time worth going out there and thanking that donor, building those relationships, than the small investment made into having, you know, software, having Lauren bring her team in.
Peace of mind.
I'll let her tell you about what it costs. If she wants to, you can do that with somebody else, but
also,
it is very, very reasonable.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do as well, Lauren, is we'll make you available when we send out the recording via email. And if anyone has any questions or they want to inquire about your services, we want to make it as easy as possible and remove any friction points so they can do that. So you'll be tagged on the recording that we sent out to everyone that was registered. And so be ready for folks to, you know, hop in your inbox and ask questions about what y'all are offering, because we think it's a great service. So really, really cool. And we're super happy to hear about all your success, all the events. Pretty awesome.
Hey, last call for questions. Cool. There's, you know, we've got an expert here, just the most knowledgeable person I've met in this space. So, gosh, if you've got a question, hit us up for it, because we want to do that. We're going to draw a winner here in just a second. So,
if you're at a crossroads, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, good.
Speak into the microphone. Speak into that big microphone you got there, Trevor.
If you guys are in a crossroads or an impasse with anything about planning your event, you have any question under the sun, this was about staffing your event properly and first impressions. And obviously, we've gone down the software path, which we constantly do, because we think it's so crucial to raising more money. Any questions about anything that you're facing right now? While we got a few more minutes with Lauren, because she, as Jason mentioned, she's a true expert in the space and has been in the space for an exceptionally long time, in multiple continents as well, which is really cool. So you all learn, but really, really fun. And if anyone has any other questions, any comments or anything like that we can help with, please let us know while we've got Lauren. So, and we'll definitely draw a winner as well. Good stuff. Can't thank you enough, Lauren, by the way. Really, really cool.
No problem. It's been really enjoyable. It's nice to speak with like-minded people, isn't it? With a general understanding of just what we're all offering. You know, I keep mentioning this whole like industry standard. And there really is. There aren't many people out there that are getting it wrong. Right? Because we're all working to this same best practice. So hence why I'm able to offer across multiple platforms. Yes, I train the staff specifically to each technology, but really, once they've got that underlying, this is what a fundraising gala is, this is what people are offering to their donors at the moment. Again, I have a different training for this. Luckily, actually, we didn't touch on necessarily where my staff come from, what their backgrounds.
Let's do it.
Just as a bit of a briefing on that, we are a post-pandemic business. It's been put together that I would like to say organically came together a little bit pushed by myself. I'm mainly just an advocate for this bunch of people that we all used to go out and deliver events, and then the pandemic hit. The first people to be let go were the on-site staff. So I was inundated with phone calls throughout the pandemic. What's happening? When can we get back out? I'm like, you know, as much as I do. A lot of them were laid off from the platforms as well. And as we know, pandemic related, there was lots of different rules and regulations that had to be followed with furloughs and staffing, things like that. And basically, I just gathered all these people back together who already knew, and we were all trained the same way to this industry standard, these best practices that we all follow, and we were able to then go out and deliver. It really was as simple as that. Again, me just being, I only will call myself the advocate. I just approached each platform. Am I allowed to name drop a few? Can we?
Sure. No, you're fine.
We've got HD Bid as well, but we've got the likes of Give Smart, likes of Givergy, likes of Greater Giving, Handbid, ClickBid. A lot of them, some of them I already knew, again, just through being in the industry, and said, hey, look how crazy I am. Look what I've decided to do. Do you think it would be beneficial to partner up and refer your clients to us? You know the service offering that we have. these are our best practices. Let's make sure they just align with yours, and even some, not necessarily your new clients, but your long-standing organizations that have been with you, who know what to expect from your staff. Can we align here? And I can offer this. And not only can we offer it in certain cities, we can offer it across the board.
Wow. Well, Lauren, that was the question that Robin just asked.
Yeah.
Are you in all major
work
cities?
in all major US cities?
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are all over. And then if we can't offer local staff, we would give a quote that would have to include travel. But we're usually pretty reasonable with that as well. Cool. In what we can offer, send in the next closest person. Can we get someone there by car and not a flight? So keeping those costs down as much as possible. But I would say, I want to say 9 times out of 10, people are going to be local. We have now, I think my last check was about 418, to be exact, staff across the whole of the US and Canada. Cool. Across all major states. Again, if we're not in your state, we can get someone there to be able to assist across all platforms. If there is a platform that you are working with that I didn't mention, please let me know, because I'm always looking to build on our partnerships as well. The platforms, the partnerships that we have, they offer us a lot of support. It isn't just a case of, oh, there you go speak to these people, they can staff. They deliver the training for us. So again, it is a partnership. We work together. We also have dedicated on the night tech support from each of our platforms. They know exactly which of their organizations are working with us. So we have good communication throughout, and that direct line that we can, if we ever do come across anything technology issue related on the night that might need some back end work happening. Again, doesn't happen.
So I want to just kind of, as we're kind of wrapping up, because we're coming up on the end of the hour, and just say that, if you have been struggling maybe with your technology, talk to Lauren. Maybe you've got a great event staff, maybe you've got all these things, but you really could use a manager there who could do that, because that's one of the things I think. Software companies are in the business of doing software. Lauren is in the business of providing service. I mean, she's, they understand all that, but their job, they're there for your organization. And I think that, at being the standpoint of an advocate is really important. And if you've got something, because I know there's a lot of people that are really concerned about it because they struggle. We've got a client that's had a couple of struggles and with some stuff, and with another, provider. I'm not going to say the name, but because I think it was an isolated issue, but your confidence kind of gets down after a couple of times. You're like, how in the world am I going to do? And I think this provides a really good, because you don't want to give up that 30% because you're just uncomfortable with how this works. And I think sometimes that's what happens.
And it's okay. It's okay. It's also okay to ask for help.
We come across quite often something that the staff are extremely good at, again, because we have knowledge across different platforms. Someone will come to us and say, as part of our ticketed checking, this is what we are trying to do, whatever that might be. And it might be something very specific to that event. And the staff might say, I know exactly what you were trying to achieve here. I know that this platform doesn't quite do it the way you foresee it happening. However, we can make it happen this way using this tech. So I don't want to call it a workaround, because it doesn't mean the technology is bad. Like you said, it could just be that isolated issue. Do not let it reflect badly on the entire platform just because it doesn't do this one particular thing you are looking for. But the staff, the event managers, can assist in knowing what you're talking about because of their experience, and then saying, right, we can do that for you. We're just going to have to do it this way. Problem solved. Smooth check.
Awesome.
Cool.
Everybody give a big hand to Lauren Batterby. Thank you so much, Lauren, for coming. Batterby is whenever she first told me. I got to say it that way. Hey, we've got a winner. I want to put this out here. So everybody give a big hand for Andrew Sharp. Andrew is the winner this week. Big hand for Andrew. He won a trip that he's going to be able to use in his next fundraiser. Yeah, thanks for being here. And thank you all so much for coming and sharing your time with us today. We know that Your time is valuable. We know that you do have a lot of things to do, but the fact that you did come here, if you're listening to this on a recording, or later on, thank you again.
Hey,
We're
that's
going to
cool too.
link Lauren's information and email. So if you have a question directly for her, want to contact her, you're going to have the ability to. So we hope that you will. Awesome. Again, reach out to me, Jason at HCA Fundraising, Trevor at HCA Fundraising. We're here to help you with anything. You don't just, if you have a question, we're happy to help. Until next time.
That's what we're here for.
Lauren,
we'll see y'all next Thursday. Thanks a ton, Lauren. That was fantastic. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
All right, cool. We'll do it again. All right. Everybody.
Have
a great Thursday. Thanks a ton. Bye.